my thing for common sense is I went to the constitution of the student council. My daughter is in student council. She's the president. She's been a president. Let me just start with that. She is the president of her class in freshman. She's a president this year in sophomore. She's a straight A student. She plays soccer, basketball, and softball. She goes to every event for student council. She does most of the posters. She does all this kind of stuff. She has ideas about boosting attendance. She utilizes them, all this kind of stuff. So the problem is we have 4 students in student council class that were not elected. So in the Constitution, which I brought up, it says membership shall consist of all student body executive officers, all elected class officers, and a governing advisor. Nothing else about 4 other students that just show up in your class and the teacher is making up, positions for these students like junior class historian, it doesn't exist. Spirit coordinator, it does not exist. Co-spirit coordinator, it does not exist. So these are some of the things my daughter has to go through. My daughter wanted to go to the state conference, and we have these 4 students that are in this class, and I do believe it's favoritism. The 4 students ended up going to the state conference over all the elected members. So I have a problem with that. So the common sense thing is this is what's in the Constitution. And then I went through several, I can read it to you, but I went through, like I said, I went to the principal, the vice principal, Cindy Daniels, and nobody can really explain to what I got was any students allowed to go to the student council class and take the student council class because it's an elective. Well, that's not really true. You're supposed to have your, from my research, you're supposed to have your elections in April, and you're supposed to be in that class for elections. And then the kids that lose that election are supposed to transfer out of the class. Is from my research and my daughter's research is what we're understanding. So I brought that up. I talked to Mr. Richardson after I talked to Ms. Daniels, and he explained to me then that it is a leadership class. So while he was on the phone with me, my daughter looked up leadership in the student council handbook and says you must be elected to leadership class, right in the student council handbook. Okay. He explained to me that that is true, but because there's a shortcoming in financial, dyers or whatever for the school system that they had to place. But my point is that's the student council handbook. Everybody has to follow it. So if my friend brings his son late to school and he's on the basketball team, he doesn't get to go to the basketball game, because it's in the handbook. So I just don't understand why there's a double standard on the handbook. It's all too late. This all happened, and my daughter did not get to go, but the 4 students that were in the class did get to go. I can go through
Mr. Bell, I apologize, your time's up, but I'll give you just a couple of more seconds if you want to finish up.
Yes, ma'am. So January 13th, I was here and I was going to talk to the board, and Ms. Daniels came up and she told me I could talk to her the next day. I talked to her, and like I said, she said any student can take the class, but we did some research. We don't believe that's true. I called on Wednesday, January 15th to talk to the principal about student council constitution. I never got a call back from her, but I got a call from Ms. Wall-Myers, and I told her the elections are held in April for the sole purpose of students running for positions and for the students that lose to transfer out of the class. She can't make up positions that don't exist for students in her class that are not elected. And she told me she would do some research and get back to me. I've never heard from her. January 17th, Mr. Richardson called and had a conversation with me about my concerns and basically said, it's not a student council class, it's a leadership class. And that's when we looked up the leadership while he was on the phone and told him that, you're supposed to be elected to leadership class. I also asked him to talk to the students because I believe Miss Wall-Myers influenced them to not pick Brielle. I also asked him to watch the videos that was the sole, they say this is what they picked the kids. My daughter, like I said, she excels at everything. That's why I'm here. I'll support her for whatever. I mean, she's a straight A student. She does all this stuff. She's a wonderful person, so that's why I'm here.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. What I'm gonna do is ask Ms. Daniels to go ahead and find some clarification and then get back to us on what that is and communicate with Mr. Bell. Okay.
I
Thank
mean,
you.
Does it say in the handbooks, under student council, it says clear as day under leadership that you must be elected to the class. State Constitution, clear as day, highlighted for members that are elected. So there has to be some kind of common sense.
We appreciate you coming in.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Parts, correct? All right, then item number 6 is our information and discussion items. Number 1 is CVHS and CTE. Better get in the right mind here. CVHS administration is doing this, so.
Ms. Crawford, would you like me to join you, or would you like me to wait until you're done until I get up to my section? Okay.
Just give me a thumbs up or say next slide. Just give me a thumbs up or say next slide.
So I wanted to present to the board some improvements in our dual credit program. Last year when we presented, we had some concerns. We've been working through several things throughout. As we learn more, new eyes, we start to see, to Mr. Bell's credit, there's some things that we need to address. And so when we were looking at our success rate in some of our dual credit programs, versus the money that is being spent, we were seeing that we were spending a lot more and covering the cost of students who were not necessarily passing. So we vetted and we created a new form for students to be enrolled in some of our concurrent, so off-campus courses. And you'll see, I think, some significant improvements. Okay, next. So when we talk dual credit, there's two things. There's dual enrollment and then there's concurrent. Both will award students college and high school credit. So the ones that we have on campus are traditionally known as AJEC, or Arizona General Education
Just stay on
Curriculum.
project just for a second. At your table, you
That's
also
later.
have this.
Oh, right, yeah. That's you'll see, that's a updated summary table that I updated today. Okay, so currently right now in our English AJEC classes, we have 61 students. So they're participating in either English 101, 102. And of the 101, 102, it's mostly juniors, a few seniors. Of all the students who are enrolled, 97.30% of the kids earned college credit, as well as, so they earned dual enrollment credit. And in the college world, you have to earn a C or better in order to earn college credit. Our seniors are typically in the 217, 242 class, which is a Shakespeare class. It's the most advanced English course we have on campus. 100% of those students earned credit. Next. In our YC math classes, we've got dual enroll is broken into 2 semesters, so YC math and statistics. And of those students, first semester, so this is data from just this first semester, that's all that I have. At the end of this year, we'll have a complete year to look at, but right now 100% of all of our students enrolled in our YC dual enrollment class have passed. That's in calculus, pre-calc, college algebra, which is part of the pre-calc curriculum for YC. Next. So concurrent classes, this could be, most of the time, these are classes that students are taking online. Occasionally they'll go to the college, but most of it is done online on kids' own time. Or if they have an extra period, they could be on campus in our library, but these are above and beyond. And it helps kids to achieve an associate's degree. It's very possible. So these are classes like biology or maybe some social studies classes, anything that we don't offer on campus and is extra that will help them earn AJEX certification, which is your core curriculum. Just like in high school, we've got a certain amount of math, English, science, elective credits. You have the same requirements in college. And so we work with YC very closely to get kids into classes that they want to take. So the total number of students, we have 46 students who are enrolled, but totaling 95 classes. So I went through and removed the duplicate students. So we have kids obviously taking more than one course on their own time. This is where the data is interesting to us and where I'm really proud of what our counselors have done and what YC has done to help us and support us. So percent of credits earned of all the 95 classes was 89.47. The same time last year, it was a 66.65% pass rate. So we looked at which kids earned a D, F, W, U, or a Y, which on a transcript doesn't award them credit. And so we removed those outliers. And so right now, total number of, or the percent of credits not earned is 10.52, it's a 0.01 margin of error. So a lot of growth. Okay, here's where the data was updated. So your supplemental sheet now matches thanks to, how do you say your last name?
Dicamillo.
Thank you, Matt, sir, back there, help me update of this slide. So as I was going through and preparing, I noticed that the math was not mapping, and I think what I ended up doing, unfortunately, was leaving some numbers from last year. But we have total number of classes enrolled in or taken. If you're comparing all of the concurrent classes, 95, there's 95 classes that kids are enrolled in. In our English, we have a total of 36. No, and 61, and in math is 45 on our campus. Total that equals 200 grades. So number of courses with passing grades, we have 165. Number of courses without passing grades is 11. Percent of courses with passing grades, 82.50%, and without passing grades is 5.5%. So this is something we're really proud of. We did create a different form where it now requires parents to understand what the requirements are. They have to sign off. FERPA, we worked heavily with Dean at Yavapai College to streamline our enrollment because kids were sometimes just enrolling on their own and we didn't really know until grades came out. And we're like, we love the initiative, but we also want to help guide them and get them to, if they earn an F, they can, if they reimburse the school, get that grade removed from their high school transcript, but it won't come off of their college transcript. But this is where that dual enrollment piece comes in. So they may not get the college credit, but they'll, if they earn a D, they could technically earn high school credit, D or above earns credit. But we really do strive and encourage kids to go to C or better, and many of them opt to get B or better. Any questions on that?
Awesome.
Okay, the next one, I'm not going to talk at all. It's a nice clip that Matt Santos captured for us from Choose Chino night that we had on January 21st. So our goal is to make sure that our we know we're not perfect, but we really are striving to do better and be better and make sure that our community knows that Chino is a very unique school. It is probably one of the most comprehensive schools I've had the pleasure of being a part of. I come from a very large district. We had CTE schools and we had a college where it was dual enroll 100% of the time. It was high school on a college campus. We get to offer all three. It's a public education that all students are afforded, but they also have opportunities in vocational, which you'll hear from when Brian Pareda comes up, in our CTE programs and partnerships with MyTED, but also with Yavapai College. It's such a sweet spot that we just wanted to capture it, put this on the website, and make sure parents knew all the cool things that we have out there.
Is the video gonna play?
We're about to find out.
Oh, no.
No.
Maybe after Mr. Pareda goes, we can show it because I can share it in a different way.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions before Mr. Pareda goes?
Ladies? Ladies? All right, no, thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Governor Board members, Madam President. I'm going to give these here to you because there's a lot of information and our great district administrators, they're fully aware of this information. I'd like to make copies for you guys. Ms. Daniels, Ms. Wolf, if you would like a copy. See what I have left. Yes. It's nice and colorful.
Oh, okay.
Good evening. I'm Brian Pareda, if I've not met you before. So thank you for having me this evening. I get to be the Chino Valley High School's Career and Technical Education Director, which some folks may know it as vocational trades. But so I'm going to give a kind of a brief overview. Not going to do like last year. I think last year I got clobbered by some of my colleagues because I was up here for like 30 minutes talking. So I'll try not to bore you guys this time. So in general, just overall, between Chino Valley High School and what Mountain Institute has to offer, there's over 30 programs available for our kids, and that's everything from manufacturing fields, health career fields, agriculture, health sciences, and the digital arts. So there's a huge span of what we're able to offer. On our campus specifically, we're able to offer 6 great programs. I see my numbering is off up there, so I apologize. But we've got 6 programs: the culinary arts, the agriculture, the welding, the bioscience, sports medicine, and the digital animation. I'm not going to go into anything in depth with each of my programs, but just some of the big bell ringers, right? 3 of our programs offer Yavapai College completion certificates with credits. We'll start with culinary arts. There's 4 different classes that they'll have an opportunity to take. So earning 16 credits and then you're earning a completion certificate through them. Agriculture, brand new for next school year, is the certificate is available. Currently, we are offering all 5 classes with agriculture, giving us 18 total credits through Yavapai College. But next year is when the certificate will kick in and kids will be eligible to earn that. Welding, we have actually 24 college credits and 3 different completion certificates with them. So that's very exciting that 3 of our 6 programs are offering college credits as well as completion certificates. Certifications, each program, if you were not aware, each program has to offer some sort of industry certification. It might be as simple as an OSHA 10, but then it gets advanced as with our digital animation one. This will be the first year they're attempting it, so fingers crossed for them. To the Adobe Certified Associate right there. Each program offers those certifications. Each program offers the ability to compete at the state level or compete at the national level if they do well enough. But each year we do have students going across the state, whether it's into Phoenix or down to Tucson or even into Camp Verde for competitions as well. But we have kids traveling all over the state all year long, either for competitions or some sort of little leadership conference, just the same. Mountain Institute, and wow, I thought it looked better than that before
Looks
sending
good
it.
on
So.
our-
Does it?
Looks
Good.
good on
So that's
ours,
close.
yeah.
And with them, what you see right away is they offer 29 programs available to our high school students. Some of these, and I didn't list them all in this one, I have a different page with that information. Most of them are 100% in person. Most of them offer Yavapai College credits. 100% of them do offer industry certifications as well. Some is a hybrid, some has online work as well as in-person work as well. But very exciting that we have these 30 programs, these 29 programs to offer to our kids. Some of the high ones that we have high enrollments in is our automotive, as you would imagine, very, very exciting for the kids. Construction is growing. The medical program, the certified nursing assistant and the medical assisting one, those programs always have high enrollments. But they stopped offering that to sophomores last school year because they just had so many sophomores coming into these programs, not ready for it, ended up failing these classes and not being able to progress. So Mountain Institute put on a qualifier for sophomores, and I'll talk with you in just a few moments about what we did as well for some eligibility criteria.
Brian, when they get a certificate,
Yes,
They can also walk at YC's graduation ceremonies, right?
yes, they can.
And a lot of our kids do that. And some of our kids have no intention of getting an AA or a bachelor's degree. And we always have phenomenal pictures every year of a lot of our certificate earners in their YC cap and gown with their certs, which is, it encourages them to go on because they
It does.
found out they could already accomplish something. It's really cool.
We get the questions of what's the certificate? What's it good for? Well, first off, for some of the families, college education isn't a thing. So I like to describe it as a mini degree. It's not a diploma, it's not an associate's degree, but you're earning a mini credential from accredited college right there. So that speaks for itself right there. And that's very much a great resume builder right there. So I'll definitely use that verbiage when I talk with families who I have a notion that doesn't have much college experience. These are just enrollment numbers over the years. And we started tracking this. This could go back further, but we basically started at the 21 school year with COVID in place. The numbers you see are representative of how many kids were enrolled with with Mountain Institute. There's a fall semester and there's a spring semester of data. You'll see with each year, it does drop off. That's because some kids, they maybe literally will fail out. Some instructors drop the kids, sometimes for non-attendance, maybe they're not doing well, maybe it's not a good match. Some of it is students dropping themselves from the program, realizing that this isn't for me. But we started tracking this data right here with Mountain Institute as well. There's a whole bunch of data that goes into this. One of the things that we do for our kids, and we didn't have it in place earlier on in Mountain Institute infancy, is we do have an academic support person, and they have the ability to meet with kids. They receive direct alerts from Yavapai College if the kid is struggling with classes or attendance, and that gives her the ability to talk with the kid and kind of create a correction plan of how to move forward. So we do watch this data right here, and I use it with my academic support person to help these numbers level off and not to drop too far. We can click through. Right here, this data right here, this is a cool one. This is a survey. We do a follow-up survey with students after they graduate. If they completed a program, so most programs are a 2-year program. So if you completed 2 years of a program, you're going to be put on the list for a survey right there. Up to these years of 21, 22, 23, we were having our teachers complete these surveys, and they just were not successful in reaching out a lot of kids. So then last year, just put in a small little stipend for a couple of personnel, and we went after students just with them specifically instead of my teachers. And you'll see the numbers drop. They jumped, what is that, 50%? So yeah, so up to 55%. What those numbers represent is the percentage of students who took 2 years of a program and are working or studying in a corresponding field to what they studied. So that's a good placement data right there. This, I'm not going to spend much time on it. It's just, this is the different amounts of data we're looking at here. For the 24-25 year, these are the 4 different areas we're looking at. Student drops per grade level, how many academic alerts we get from Yavapai College, how many kids are being dropped by instructors, and how many kids are failing. And we do break it down by grade level. Across the county, most school districts are not sending sophomores. So keeping a close eye on our sophomores, and 1, make sure they have the support that they need, and 2, to make sure that they are academically ready and mature enough to be able to take these classes. For a couple of years, can you go back 2 slides for me really quick? I'm sorry, 1 more, yeah. In our drop-offs, one of the things that we realized is, especially the 22 school year, we had pretty significant amount of kids drop. So we started thinking about criteria. Not every kid is academically or mature enough to be able to take these classes. So we started to put some little criteria pieces in to make sure we're putting kids in position to be successful. So some of it dealt with attendance, making sure they have good attendance, and making sure their grades were at a certain level as well. So we did put that criteria in place. And one of the best things is, as you see just from the number of kids dropped from 22 to 23, the percentage is similar, but the number of kids total dropped, there's a bit of a difference there. So anyhow, we feel it's useful, and we feel it's putting more kids in position to be successful that way. Fast forward, one more. And then this is our graduating data right here. This comes straight from our school report card data that we have to submit each year. And three big things that each of our classes who take, each of our programs is, we always look at how many college classes are being offered or taken. We look at how many certifications have been earned, and then you'll see the blue line, which is a TSA, which is an assessment. At the end of each program, students have to take an assessment. And so that's our data, the number of kids passing. This is the percentage of kids, percentage of graduating classes earning these credentials here. So last year, almost 60% of our kids took 2 college classes specific to CTE, 2 college classes specific to CTE. And almost close to 50% of our kids earned a certification, 50% of the graduates. And then likewise, that similar number, almost 50% of the kids passed the end of program assessment. The end of program assessment is an important piece that the state utilizes to make sure that we are teaching standards. And as you may or may not know, we get a lot of extra funding for CTE specifically. So they are measuring our teachers to make sure they're teaching the standards and doing well with that. So anyhow, data heavy information, but please keep that with you. And
So,
if there's any
Brian,
questions.
how many students are enrolled this year?
I know what's coming. The hardest one to get is we have a lot of kids who take 2 CTE classes or more on campus. So we get a lot of duplicates right there.
More than 50%.
Yeah, close to 50% of our kids are taking some CTE class or not. And as it's indicative right here, almost 50% of our kids are earning certifications right there from a graduating class. So I would say we're close to 50% of our kids are enrolled in something.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do other high schools in the Tri-City area offer this as well?
Yeah, this is available to every high school. I don't know what charter schools look like, so I can't speak to them very well. But they're able to enroll with Mountain Institute, and they're able to have CTE experiences right there. I know that Prescott and Bradshaw have these CTE programs on their campus, as well as some of the outlying districts, Seligman, Ashford, Mayor, Baghdad.
The districts in this area, we have the highest percentage of kids who are enrolled in CTE programs. Ashford and Seligman probably have higher percents because they have the TD kind of student populations. But of the 3 big schools in this area, by far, we have the most kids in CTE programs.
Well, I think it's really great. I think that we offer this. I really like the fact that the children have more successful as the years go by too.
So it's that good year. You see that steady climate there.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure there's a plateau somewhere on there, but we're going to keep cranking. And this summer, we're going to be rewriting some curriculum and rebuilding scope and sequences with our CTE teachers. So
Is there
keep going.
a cap to how many students can participate or?
Not really. Can't really see it as a cap. We have class sizes that get capped. Like there's sometimes like a welding class from time to time, we have too many requests, we can't honor everybody. But like with welding specifically, we can try to push them into a program with Mountain Institute because they have welding there. Never had too many. Any other questions?
No, good job.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Crawford, did you have the video to show us or?
Yes, I think he's got it pulled up.
Can we have her do her presentation and then I'll do the video after?
Oh,
So I have a minute to get it off of email.
completely fine.
You want
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so as you heard, we have some very wonderful things happening in our world of CTE. And one of the funniest things I always think is, people at church approach me or people in community, and they're like, yeah, high schools need to offer home ec and auto shop. And I'm like, they're like the vocational trades. And I always say, well, today's CTE is not our CTE. Vocational education now is so much more. And a big part of vocational education is we're preparing kids for a world and jobs that don't even exist yet, that we're setting them on this path. So for example, when we started our networking program years ago, we didn't have, AI wasn't even a thing. And so we're working to prepare kids for that step. So I wanted to share that with you. I also included an article in your packet, feel free to rip it out. It was an article that was, it's my turn to write an article for the Courier, like every third month or something like that. And I wrote about preparing kids for the future and compared it to high school education in general as a good solid commuter car. But we're also helping kids build cars that are like, that can fly, and that your education is a pathway to lots of kinds of things. So you guys can feel free to take that. Brian has set up for us, I gave you a short notice thing about the kids were going to CTEC last week for a tour. If you wanted to hop in the tour, Inger's given the tour in Spanish, so she's really familiar with it. But Brian also arranged, if we have interest, that prior to our board meeting in March, at 3:00, that we said, yeah.
Yes,
At
I'm
3
sorry.
o'clock, we would do a tour at CTEC just for our governing board. So all you need to do is communicate with me or communicate with Becky if you want to go. Even if 2 of you can make it, that's fine. We can, I think it's wonderful for everybody to experience what we have to offer at CTEC. And if we have administrators that want to jump in the tour, that would be good too, who haven't had a chance to go. But if we have at least 2 people, then we'll for sure do it, and you kind of get your own private behind the scenes tour.
Just let me know ahead of time so I can make sure we have
Posting for the,
adequate transportation and everything.
and it's only 7 miles down the road off River Road right there, kind of by the airport. So truthfully, you will be blown away by what you see. And Brian, because Chino has done this for 2 or 3 years now, the Spanish speaking tour.
I apologize for not bringing that up. Yes.
Now they're gonna do one for all the schools that belong to Mountain Institute, because they've seen the interest and the need level, so now we don't have to have just our own solo tour anymore. And Inger doesn't have to lead it and learn all the technical words she didn't know for like diesel mechanics or whatever. That will also be going on, so if anybody really wants to take the tour in Spanish,
March 12th.
March 12th is the tour in Spanish, which is, so that's a Wednesday. So just want to let you know about that. And then I wanted to talk to you a little bit about things that you may have seen on the news lately. Because, education seems to be the lead story on the 6 a.m. news quite often. And so a couple of things I want to talk to you about are, there was the Auditor General's office 1 year ago was tasked with auditing school safety plans. We attended a mandatory webinar about the audit process and what would be looked at. And we were informed at that time that every school district in the state of Arizona would be audited on their school safety plan. We were not selected for round 1, but we have fabulous administrators out there, and Brandy is like the school safety plan writer machine. And so she really was like, she's an overachiever, so she wanted hers to be perfect. So it's awesome. So they just released information that most of the schools they looked at in Arizona in round 1 were found to be non-compliant. So we don't know if we'll be selected in round 2. I attended a webinar last week. There was a mandatory webinar from the Auditor General's office. I attended that. They didn't really change any other information other than to say, you might be selected in round 2. So they're just working their way through the 240 some school districts in the state of Arizona and the 250 plus charters in the state. So it's going to take them a long time to get through everybody, but sooner or later we'll be selected. And I will tell you, I am confident that our plans meet the standard. They are phenomenal. They're detailed. Every single piece is in there that's supposed to be in there. Every attachment is with them. And we have them electronically ready to send to the Auditor General should they request them at any time. The other thing that you heard about on the news was from the Auditor General's office as well, was the financial risk report. That's a new report. I really think that part of that was born out of the fact that districts had access for 3 years to COVID relief funds from the federal government. So we know them here locally as ESSER 1, 2, and 3. And you'll remember that in that ESSER process, school districts had more money to spend than they typically would have to spend because those were direct funds from the feds. What they did was they audited districts to find out, are they at a financial risk? Because you've also heard about a school district in Phoenix that was $12 million or 20 million or 30 million, like the number kept growing, in the hole. And so they do this risk report to see, is your district at financial risk? And in this district, we were found to have low risk for financial trouble. The only area that was noted on the Auditor General's report is that we were transferring money from capital to M&O as a potential risk. But you'll remember, during the COVID relief years, we squirreled extra M&O money, like we had a deadline to use the COVID money. So we used the COVID money, put some of our regular money into capital to like a savings account. And then as we've needed that money now without COVID relief funds, we've moved some back to M&O. So they don't consider that a risk. They just noted that we're moving money from capital M&O. But in this district, that's what we planned to do. So that wasn't because we didn't plan for it. That actually was the plan. So we were found to be at low risk. And I would tell you, and I told John this morning, he doesn't like to hear this, but in 34 years, John is by far the best business manager I have ever worked with. And our low financial risk is due in part to his fastidiousness about paying attention to the budget and making sure that we're following all the rules. John's one of those people who is not only a rule follower, he's like a rule follower on steroids. He doesn't, gray area is not in his vocabulary. He is this is the lane, we gotta stay in it. And that has served us really well. Another report on the news, because it's always good about schools, right? Another report was that schools have not rebounded. Their test scores haven't rebounded since COVID. I would just like to point out that we actually take a different test now. So of course they're not going to rebound or match because it's two totally different tests. And so it's misleading. In fact, one of the things I wanted to share was when Arizona has changed their state test at least 5 times in the course of my administrative career, which is 19 years. Every time Arizona changed their state test, statewide student pass rates went down. Every time. So it's got to make you wonder, every time you change the test, student pass rates go down. What's up with that? That it seems odd. But I wanted to, I've got theories, but we won't go there. But the thing that I want to share with you is, of course, scores haven't rebounded because it's 2 totally different tests. So you can't compare scores pre-COVID to scores post-COVID because the test changed during COVID, and then we had a year where we didn't take it at all. And then one year was the test, the year where they work out the bugs. So then those scores don't count. So it's that information was very misleading. Many of us here wish we could return to the very first test, which was Ames. The Arizona Instrument to Measure Standards was very accurate. It was very tightly aligned to the Arizona state standards. In this school district, our pass rate ranged between 72 and 84% when we had that test that was most tightly aligned. For example, now the high school takes ACT as their state test. That's not tightly aligned to Arizona standards. That's a national test. So you wouldn't expect that a test that's for everybody in the nation would tightly match Arizona's. We have longed for the day when we could have a test that was more reflective of Arizona standards. The other thing was you received an email from me regarding the water main break at HMS. And we did send the students home early that day because we did not have water to the office, the nurse's office, which is crucial, the gymnasium, the cafeteria, and 2 of the pods. So Chris is here. We'll just bless his heart right now. Any of you had water leaking anywhere? No, it's never where you see the water is never where the leak is. So it's far away. So we already had kids on buses headed to schools for Del Rio and Heritage. We have one big valve, oversimplifying here, that shuts off Heritage, Del Rio, and the teacher housing. because we're on well over there. We're not hooked up to Gina Water there. And bless Heidi, she started getting frantic text messages from people who were like mid-shampoo in the teacher housing, had no water. And she's like, put on a hat and go to work. You'll be fine. And so what happened was, when I told Chris, hey, we got kids on the way to school, he made a great decision, which is I'm just gonna turn it back on and let it roll until we figure something else out. If we had turned those buses around, remember that they have territorial kids on them as well, who would have been late for school. We also have lots of houses where parents have already left for work, so sending kids back would not be a good idea. So we waited till we had a chance to assess the situation. We had about 50 yards of visibility in the fog that morning. It's about 20 degrees, so it was pretty chilly. We're all outside with bubbling up water. And eventually, Chris was able to find a valve that just sectioned off where the leak was. So Del Rio and the housing were back to their, they had water, so that was good. But we made the decision at that time to send HMS home because there was no way to prepare lunch or any of those things. And the other campuses can't pivot quickly and provide all that and bring it. We don't also have authorization with our health department licensing to transport food from one campus to another. We don't have like way to keep it warm and things like that. So Chris and his crew got to work, and what they found was probably 20 to 30 yards down the bus lane, they found the leak. They dug up some asphalt and determined that there was a sinkhole under the asphalt, which as it turns out is about as big as my office. So I'm really glad that we did not, thankfully the asphalt is pretty thick there. It's about 6 inches thick there. I am really thankful because we could have easily had a bus going through the asphalt into the sinkhole. The water had been clearly bubbling up for a bit in order to make that size sinkhole. So they went ahead, they got some parts to do a temporary fix to get school back in session from the following Monday. And over the weekend, we're able to get more parts, and they dug up the whole thing. There's a giant piece of asphalt missing now, and they're letting it dry out. They've got AB in there so they can compact that and then get the asphalt laid back down. We're running against the clock since there's rain coming in Thursday night, it looks like, but they're on track. And I just want to kudos to our crew. We did not have to call out any outside plumbers. We didn't have to call out any outside. We, rented some equipment, and bless their hearts, the asphalt saw was, they had to go back for a better one, a bigger one. But they were able to handle it in-house and will be able to fully make the repair, which literally will save the district tens of thousands of dollars. So kudos to Chris and his crew. Yeah, they told me it was like the size of a VW bug. Then Chris came in the next day, he's like, actually, Sydney, it's almost as big as your office. And I went and looked over the weekend, and it is as big as my office. One of the really cool things is we've been wanting to do a campus evacuation. And so this was urgent, but not an emergency. So we had all the buses come. We kept once we knew that we were going to send Heritage home, Selena kept all the drivers. Then we got all the drivers over to Heritage, got everybody lined up. Matt got all the SROs there, and so people could direct traffic. We told the kids to open their backpacks, get their cell phones out, turn them on. So then we sent the message to the parents. So then the parents could communicate with their kids if they wanted to pick them up instead. We directed traffic. I figured, so the call went out slightly by 9:11, 9:12 in the morning. I figured the campus, we would pretty much have it evacuated within 30 minutes, 34 minutes, which was really impressive. So super kudos to Caitlin and her staff about that. The teachers were super heartbroken to have to go home early on a Thursday. And the kids, they were so sad. They're like, can we please stay? No. So it worked out. It was great. Catherine's here tonight. I think I saw her back there. Yeah, she's going to talk. We've had a lot of influenza A in the district, and we've had a lot of it through the community. Catherine did a really good job. She sent out some information to all the staff about good health practices, what the policy says about attending work, and if you've had a fever, how long you have to sit out and all that. So super kudos to her. The last two things are we've been working hard on our budget for next year. John created 3 budget scenarios for us based on enrollment projections, one at flatline, one at 4%, which is what we've been averaging, and one at a 10% reduction. We built budgets and worked with administration. You'll hear some things later about staffing recommendations. Since we do have fewer students, that changes our need for staffing. So you'll see some of those in your report here from Heidi. And then the last thing is, I hope you've been watching our district social media pages. If you haven't subscribed to them, I encourage you to, because you'll get to see the brand ambassadors who we've been honoring. Those are employees who are nominated by their peers, who are doing great things in representing Chino Valley well. And remember, the 3 things that came out of our strategic planning day last year was that students were prepared when they leave our school to meet the challenges in front of them, whether it be the workforce or furthering their education, that our schools are safe, and that we work together to accomplish those things for kids. So that's what helps us move forward, and it's how brand ambassadors are recognized.
Any
I was
questions?
gonna tell her, Rick, when I picked up Juke from Del Rio the day of the leak, I said, hey, Mom, he opens the door, why couldn't the leak been in my school? What? He's like, I heard he tried to go home early. I'm like, I just thought there wasn't a leak anywhere else, you know? And it obviously traveled to the school that kids got to go home and they had to.
Oh, yeah, yeah, they were really super.
The February goals and strategies, right?
February goals and strategies. So you have all of your updates from all of the departments. I know you've had a chance to look at them. One of the things I wanted to point out was that our food service has been serving more meals than ever. One of the things that you've heard about on national news is what happens if U.S. Department of Ed is disbanded. And there was a temporary pause put on all federal spending, which included free breakfast and free lunch. And the pause was lifted the next morning, but there are potentially some big things coming forward that could affect our NSLP, our National School Lunch Program. So as we have more information about that, I'll be sure to provide to you, because these numbers in that Sodexo report, which is I think the very last one in there, really show you how valuable having access to free breakfast and free lunches for our students. You also have all kinds of other updates in here from facilities, from CTE, from special ed. And if you have any questions about any of those, I invited admin and directors to the room, except I've got Selena Luce, who's transportation. If you have any questions about what's in the report, they are prepared to be able to answer for you.
Sometimes, what is a mirror?
That's our reading platform.
That's our reading,
So
okay.
it used to be Dibbles, now we've changed it to Mirror.
In Amira, the kids also read with an
They do it
avatar.
with an avatar. Every day they read into Mirror. She rates it. She's a one-to-one tutor, and then that's also our testing platform.
Can we go back to Sodexo?
Yes, ma'am.
So right now, all kids get free lunch. They get
Right,
lunch,
we
period.
are under a program called the Community Eligibility Provision. That is one of the programs on the federal chopping block. So if the community eligibility provision is eliminated at the federal level, we would have to go back to collecting free and reduced lunch applications, which would exclude about 40% of our student population from access to free breakfast and free lunch. When we had, during the Obama administration, there was a change in the rules about federal breakfast and lunch programs. And if a kid couldn't pay, then we had to give them the same lunch that everybody else got. In the olden days, before Obama, we used to be able to give them an alternate lunch, like an apple and a peanut butter sandwich, or a cheese sandwich if they're allergic to peanut butter, and, access to the, fresh fruits or vegetables. Under the Hunger Free Healthy Kids Act, that was changed, so schools couldn't lunch shame anybody by giving them a different lunch. What happened once that law was enacted, the district was carrying significant debt on the books from kids who weren't paying for lunch, who weren't eligible for free lunch, or who hadn't turned in the applications. And we had to give the same lunch to, because we still have to pay for the food, right? So, we were running between 35,000 and 55,000 a year in lunch debt. The district has to absorb that lunch debt. And so one of the things that, should the community eligibility provision be on the chopping block, the district will be working with the lobbyists that our Forestry Management Association pays for to work on lobbying to roll back to the rules prior to the Obama administration. Because if we have to, as you know, as the economy worsens and they're talking about changing, eliminating SNAP benefits too for people, that means that more people will need and rely on free breakfast and free lunch if they don't qualify, or because here's why they don't qualify in Arizona. Anybody in the room know what federal minimum wage is? $7, $7.35 an hour is federal minimum wage, or $7.50. In Arizona, it's we just looked it up, $14.75. So if people are making minimum wage in Arizona, their kids do not qualify for free lunch because it's based.
$14.75 an hour.
Is Arizona's minimum wage. The federal is like $7.50. So if they're making Arizona's minimum wage, then they're making too much to qualify for free lunch. And that is how we wrap up big lunch debt. So
So we're talking 60% of our kids should qualify, but with the minimum wage and everything, literally like 100% of our kids.
it could change it, definitely. So it's definitely one of those things where decisions made at the federal level have a huge impact locally in our school district, even though it seems like it's far away. That one's a really big one that potentially will cost the district. And remember, that $35,000 to $55,000 debt that was being accrued was 5 years ago. The prices that we pay for lunch food now, of course, like you all know, the funniest meme I saw this weekend was an egg in a ring box, and it said he went to Kroger. We're all paying more for food, which means that the lunch debt that was accrued before would probably now look more like $65,000 to $85,000. The district would have to absorb that cost. So those are just some interesting things about how national decisions affect us locally.
Anything else for Superintendent Daniels? Okay. Video?
So Choose Chino Night is designed to help parents know what we in the community, because anybody can come, to know what we have to offer at our high school. So because we want them to send their kids to CVHS instead of somewhere else.
That must.
Sounds good. Thank you, that was good. We had a good turnout that evening, I'm guessing too, right?
Yes, kudos to my team. I'll admit I was not able to make it. I was at home sick for 4 days, and I tried. I called two doctors and tried to get a different opinion, but they both said the same thing, and I wasn't able to be there. But my team really filled in. It's a testament to. It really took a village to make that happen. But yeah, we went across town. We tried to put flyers up and lots of media posts, worked with the middle school. Marty Campitelli was able to come up and help supervise and chaperone. They got to go to the farm. We showcased as much as we possibly could because I just don't think that people know yet. I mean, they know, but do they really know the robust offerings? Not yet. So that's something we're working on is the marketing.
That's wonderful, thank you.
The food was a big hit too, speaking of Sodexo. They did a great job.
All right, item 6C is our financial reports for this evening.
Thank you. Members of the board, Madam President, administrators, employees, and staff, ladies and gentlemen. A real quick look at our month end, June to January 2025. Two main funds just to take a quick look at. We mentioned earlier that we've been transferring funds between these two main funds, our operating fund and our capital fund for the last 4 years. Our operating fund last year was $20 million and we spent 18.8. This year it's not quite that robust, but it is 19.4. As of the end of January, we spent just over $11,030,000 in that. So I always like to look at the percentage of the year gone, which is 58%, versus the percentage of the budget spent, which is 56%. So you're in a little better place if you're 58% of the year gone and you haven't spent 80% of your budget than if you have spent 80% of your budget at that point. So we're in good shape there. Our capital fund is 610, budget 1.13 million, spent 303,000 spent, another 330,000 encumbered. Our goal is to sit on that fund as much as possible, and everything that we are going to spend is probably already on purchase orders, and that gives us an opportunity if there are some emergencies that come along, we have some funds. In this case, I think we've had our last water emergency. Would that be right, Mr. Sheriff? We've had our last.
As long as you don't jinx us.
Don't talk about it too much. So we're in pretty good shape there with 303,000 spent, another 300 some ready to be spent. And the good news is all those other expenditures are debt service, so they're not really open for just new purchases that we might need. We've been able to pick up several vehicles from our COVID funds over the years. I think we're in pretty good shape for major purchases. Any questions on those funds? Any cash, beginning cash. Started the month of January, all funds $7.7 million, ended all funds $7 million even, so we went down. I did pick for your information a little document that's got 1 GPA on it. I'd like to just review that really quickly. And just to, I was talking with Superintendent Daniels just recently, and it's come to my attention that you may be asked questions on the street, other school board members or parents, and they may say something like this. Did you know that you bought this very expensive capital item? And you may say something like, well, was it a Learjet for $38 million or something? And they may say, no, but it was a $192,000 bus, and they may ask, did you give approval to that specifically? And I've got a friend down in Mesa District, and they have a policy. And, if $1 million purchase has to be made, the governing board doesn't want to hear about it. Once it reaches that certain threshold, they want input. They want to get information. They want to have a discussion. We don't have a really specific policy preventing or allowing that, but for discussion items, I'd like to present a few things and get some feedback from you. I think it's a wise idea anytime anyone in the district, whether it's transportation, whether it's facilities, whether it's the business office, just whether it's a school, anytime we foresee spending 100,000 at least, we want you to know. I think that's a wise. Then you can answer that question if it does come up. Well, we're considering doing things. needs, or we think there might be a need to replace this old vehicle or this old bus, or this wing in this school. And then we'll hopefully, if that's gonna be on the agenda, to do that at some point, we'll be able to say, well, we have limited local funds, but we've been saving them for a while. Or, one of the reports I've given you here, is the state will pay for this with their school facilities board fund, and then everyone's temperature and concern level should plummet quite a bit if the state is really aware of what our needs are for our schools. So just to that, if you go to about the 4th page in, and you take a look at what I call the state funds, the school facilities board, and we have this front and back copy. If you just go to page 2 there, and take a look at it, and it's still kind of upside down. You can just get a second time. There's 4 numbers on that page that are pretty interesting. The first number is halfway down, and it's 4.2 million. It's halfway down the page. It's kind of right there. 4,288,000. That's the page 1 projects that are all closed for payment, all paid for by the state. Number 2 is up above that, 27.5 million. That's the projects on that page that we've been able to get funded since August of 2023. So you've got the 4 million that's paid, done, and everything's closed. You've got the ongoing 22 million for HVAC throughout the district. That comprises the 27 million. You go to number 3, which is the 31 million together. That's what's been approved, and that's what we're spending against. Then we go to the bottom of the page, you see another 17.9 million. That's in progress. That's weatherization that could easily be 7 million for all buildings combined.
Fancy word for paint.
Paint, and we'll leave the other adjectives out of that one. But those are funds that we believe could be awarded in the next 6 to 8 months. There's a funding trough that the school facilities board is in right now. They don't really get their 250 to 300 million until usually the end of June till the beginning of August. That's when they're refunded and they have money to hand out. So we have some projects we think that will be, including the 4 million for our schools over here to the east, that will be removed and replaced. But we can't say much about those, but at least it gives you something if someone says, well, where's all this money coming from for these projects? So that's a quick summary. And then there's a page I'd like to just back up and back up to the beginning here, because I made a little cover sheet. It's about the 3rd page in, and at the top it says Arizona School District Procurement, in nice big bold letters. And then behind those pages with the school facilities board, there's about 12 pages in the front and back with the details and our policies. So I'll just go through those for just a second here. So we don't use the word purchasing very much. We know that if you purchase a sandwich, you pick it off the deli line, you say sandwich number 3 with the ham and cheese. In school districts, there's 4 words that we use, and it's at the top of that page with the nice bold letters. Shop it, cost it, and then, well, the first one is define it. It's kind of hidden behind there. We have to define it. We get things once in a while when we have eight people that I call buyers. They're the ones out there shopping on websites. And sometimes I got one 3 years ago called Iron Man. One word, you wanted to purchase an Iron Man. Now, I do triathlons, and I wasn't sure if a triathlon ticket was being bought there, because an Ironman triathlon, there's probably $2,000 to enter one of those. If it was a weight machine, if it was a tire, a remover, what it was. So sometimes we don't have a lot of information. So we define it, and we try to be competitive and get the best price and the best deal for the district. We shop it, then we cost it, and we try to nail down to what the benefits are, what the long-term and short-term operating costs might be, and then we code it. And then we use 20 digits to put that into a code. So that to me is more, we have to research it, see how it fits the school district, and then do the best thing for the school district. So then we look at some codes there, Arizona Administrative Code R721,000, we have the federal code that are behind all these things. So there's a couple parts here, and we just have some thresholds. So if we want something under $10,000, I've got to the point now, because our budgets are a little tight, I try to let Superintendent Daniels and Ms. Wolf know, here's what's coming. We want to buy a $800 printer over here. Do we want to buy, now this was interesting because our CASA program got an $800 filing cabinet with gifts and donations funds. So if any of you know our new CASA director, Ms. Sinovia over there, those funds aren't quite as critical. It's a really secure, fireproof cabinet. And if you want to go see it, you can. It's gonna be there in a few weeks. It's $800 and it's really secure.
John has all the
Yeah.
exciting stuff.
So there you go. But that was a different fund. That was a gifts fund. It's really our operating funds that I'm talking about that are really scrutinized for big purchases. So under 10,000, if we want it and it's approved and it's in the budget, we have a valid quotation and they have a W-9. We don't buy stuff from mainland China. We just don't do it. We can't get proof that it's legal for us to buy, so we don't do that. They have to have an American agency here and they have to have an American sales outlet. They don't have to manufacture it here, but we have to get a W-9. So that's under 10,000. If you need it, we buy it. $10,100 up to 100, we have a little bit different, a little bit more formal. We can't just copy a web page somewhere. We have to get formal quotes. And we do those, and sometimes there's exceptions. If we get one formal quote and we get two, then we really get after it. And our facilities department knows all about this. They're always buying things like heavy lifts, and you probably got 8 pieces of equipment. You take the lift that we have, the cherry picker, you take what's your big 12,000 pound unit? There's a big lawnmower, that was $96,000. There's a little, you got a skid steer. What's the one that's, the forklift. The forklift is so heavy that what is it, 12,000 pounds, 10,000 pounds? It's really, really heavy. So when we buy things like that, we want to really research it and get the very best items. So with that, if we get one forklift bid and then 2 other companies have been contacted, we really put pressure on them to say, okay, we understand you don't want to sell us a forklift, you don't want to service it, you don't want to come here. Send us a no bid response. The auditors look at it, you got 1 bid here, you got 2 no responses, you met the criteria for the statute. You've got 3 people that you've reached out to that could meet your need, and one of them gave you a bid. So you're in the clear. Because you can't force people to provide you with a good or a service. Now you can almost force them. If you get Suzanne there in the facilities department, almost force them to send you a no bid. And so we get a lot of those. And that's for up to the 100,000. Then if you hit the 100,000, you're going to spend more. Now you need to do formal sealed bids. Now you need to say on this day, this is when this bid closes. And there's a timeline on the bottom of that. If you go down to competitive sealed RFPs and services, I'll go through a 4-day timeline just to show you how everything we do is 1, 2, 3, 4. So you go down to the bottom of this page under competitive sealed RFPs. Number 1, issue the RFP. This is what we did for our asphalt services that we're going to be talking about later, and hopefully we can do a bid award because the name of the company, we've done this so fast, we didn't even have the name of the company last Thursday when we put this together. So we issued a RFP in the newspaper after you approved this at the January 13th board. We said, can we issue a proposal for asphalt maintenance services? Board said yes. That gives us a green light. That was the 13th of January. The 17th, we had it in the Courier. That's when the bid date started. It closed February 4th. That was a Tuesday at 1:30. We collected 4 bids, and we bring a name to you tonight that we think met all the criteria. So that's how it goes for these procurements. The due date was again February 4th. Then the award date will be February 10th tonight. Then we'll call it, award that bid for asphalt services. We'll call the vendor tomorrow. He'll send us a bid for 100% of the project, a bid bond, and then he'll be able to swing in and schedule a date. And based on a discussion I had with Superintendent Daniels and Ms. Thomas back in about May of 2024, we decided that we have these funds and our 620 fund for things like fire lanes and paving, but we wanted to get on their schedule as soon as possible because Sunland Asphalt's the company we're talking about. They are in 6 states and they can have crews of maybe 20 or 30 people, but they fill up real quick for summer projects. So that's the best time to do it. So that's the procurement once we hit that $100,000. Any questions so far? There's just a couple more things.
And you can take this with you. John made it separate so you can take it with you in case you have insomnia. There are lots of pages of policy in here too. But John wanted to be, especially because we have new board members, really wanted everybody, and he asked, can I provide kind of a little study on how school districts procure stuff, especially for the benefit of our new folks.
So just a couple more things, because it's nice again to be in your position and have as much information as possible. So if you go to the very front page, and then we'll go to the back in a minute, you look at this one GPA, it says that is a state-approved purchasing cooperative. And if we wanted to duck and dodge and not do all this work to go to the January 13th meeting to get your approval, we could buy things from them, these vendors, without any procurement at all. Because they've already been pre-bid and pre-awarded by this cooperative, and then they can sell things like buses. We bought a bus for $217,000 for Canyon State. They're a big bus vendor. They're, by the way, the only bus vendor in the state that can sell a Bluebird bus that's new. Anyone can sell used, but they're the only. So that puts me in a bit of a, and Selena, I think, was here a minute ago. She's still here. She's left. It puts us in a bit of a way to not share information with the board. We've got 3 old buses and we want to replace one. We say, well, we just go buy off this contract, don't have to do bids. We don't come to you and say, please approve the bid, but I want to come to you and let you know that we're thinking of doing it, just so you have that information. So the 4 companies here, Cactus, Roadrunner, Sunland, and Weems, that are mentioned right here on the one GPA contract, all gave us bids for our asphalt project, every one of them. And that's part of what they sign up for when they get awarded these pre-bid contracts, that they will reach out, even if it's Mesa Unified with 59,000 or Chino Valley Unified with 2,100 students, they have an obligation to service. The bids went from 460,000 down to 360,000, and we reviewed them last week, but that's the way it works. But we still want you to know if we're gonna do this. Then if you go back to page 6, right towards the end of your document, page 6 of 11, there's just some statements that I would like to feel like we're kind of like partners. So when we do need something, you know things. So if you go to page 6 and you go to the second paragraph, and then you go down to the last sentence in the second paragraph. The successful bidder must present performance and payment bonds for 100% of the bid within 5 days after notification. So if you approve Sunland tonight to be the company that gets to do these projects that facilities described, and we did the bid for, by our bid is even tighter. We said we want this proof of this bond of the 360,000 in 2 days after. If it's awarded tomorrow, so to speak, we want it by Wednesday. This policy is a little more relaxed, 5 days, but then that really ensures us if there's a problem with either the heat temperature. How many things can go wrong with an asphalt install?
He's jinxing us.
Yeah, well, we've got to get some reality here. So here we go. Go to the third paragraph and second from the bottom. The policies related to outside professional services apply only to services required by law to be on the bid. Even those policies may be set aside if there's an emergency. So we've had 4 floods since I've been here. I've been here 4 years, 2 at the high school, 2 at the middle school. A couple of inside, a couple of outside. If there's an emergency, some of this is suspended a little bit. We want safety for the students, safety for the buildings, and reduce the impact of the emergency. I'm not even going to say how many fires we've had, but I know there's been 4 fires. So there we go. So we do have an exception when there's an emergency, because we want to save and preserve property. The very last paragraph, I'll just read a couple sentences. The board reserves the right, and this is where I wanted to be real clear, to reject any or all bids. So if we come to you and we say, we got a crook over here, their company won, and you can go to the registrar of contracts and it will tell you if they don't pay their subs or they don't pay their employees. And over here, we've got a person whose home office is in France and they're never here, and they submitted a bid, but we think it's phony. We can advise you to reject all the bids and then stay in the procurement. So there's no award made. You can reject any or all bids, or you can accept the bid that appears to be in the best interest of the district. That's what we push to get the one that's in the best interest of the district. And just the last thing I'll say, and Chris, you might recall this one. I was here about 8 months, and we have a really supportive person at the school facilities board. She's our liaison, and she knew we needed new bleachers. 2 new ones for the high school gym over in the main high school gym, and 1 at the middle school. Well, I won't mention any names, but the person that represented the only bleacher company in the state that could sell us bleachers worked for 2 cooperatives. Avi up here in Kingman and 1 GPA down in Phoenix. And he was not attending to his duties. So he sent us 2 bids. And he works on commission. So bid number 1 was the one he thought was the only one he sent us. Well, he made a mistake and he sent us the other one, which was $13,000 cheaper for the same bleachers. So then I'd already got the award from the state, and I would put in the one, we had it both, so I put in the one for the lowest cost, the best interest, because it's the same set of bleachers. And then he calls, I think he called you the next day and said, can't you just change what you put in for the grant award and make it the one that's 156,000 instead of 143,000? So I'll get 4,000 more commission, basically is what he said. And do you remember what we said? Yep, we said, no, yep, we said. So we're looking out for the district as best. So that's kind of the way these goes. You get to know people, you get to know motivations, and I don't know what this person's motivation was, but we got involved with that. Now, if he would have been really tricky, he would have only sent us the one that was the highest, but he's under an obligation if he's with both cooperatives to represent both. So cooperatives they're helpful and there's pre-bids going on, but sometimes you still have to manage them. So, and the cool thing is about the last thing I'll say, the cool thing is when you look at all these awards that I think we've got, we said 21, we said 4, we said 17. Every one of these are done by myself. I write up the application. And then they say, here's the terms and conditions. And the terms and conditions are really simple. When the state's paying for it off this page. They will provide the funds because we've documented with assessment from an engineer, we've documented with the design concept from an architect, and we've documented with construction bid from a construction company that we can do these projects for this amount of money. The terms and conditions say we will accept this amount of money. And also, we will follow what the procurement was for, whether it's bleachers, whether it's for HVAC systems for $8 million at high school. We will follow exactly what we said we wanted. And then after that, Superintendent Daniels would sign off, I would sign it, and then Board President Thomas would sign it. Then I resubmit it back to them, and then the terms and conditions are go. And then it takes a while to get the contractor set up and on site. But that's how simple this is. So I can even, if you want to, certainly let you know where we're at with these every time there's an award coming for over 100,000, just so you can see, and I'll keep you updated if that makes us more accountable to give you a right to reject. And you approve and reject, and you'd have on the board an information item, a discussion item, then the same agenda, an approval item to enter into these school facilities board. It's unusual for us to, with these dollars, have instant approval, but at least you'd be able to do that. And then it might take 6 months, like the last one we did here, the fire alarm. The fire alarm at Del Rio took 11 months from the time we applied for it until the time the state approved 131,000 for them. But if we have your approval at the front end, at least you know, and then you can say, well, when's that going to get approved? What's the status? But does that work if we just put it on the agenda as an information discussion and approval for the night? And it's not approving the purchase, it's approving us pursuing the purchase.
Except for the transparency. And then, and maybe at some point in time, we can look at the procurement process just a little bit more in depth and look at the policies.
So you-
Our
Yep, so you have them, so you can take them to, and then that way,
Mhm.
at any time, if we want to revise our own policy manual to include, board permission at a certain dollar threshold or whatever, we can do that.
For sure.
I do have a question, if you don't mind. When you do get like a contract and it's in writing and everything, and it's like 11 months, have they ever went up on the price because of?
Good question. Renio, that's a good question. So we're in a situation like that right now. The whole south end of one of our campuses has a $4 million project, putting air conditioning. And that price, that $4 million, is going on 6 months old, going on October of 2024. And we're getting some, I guess you could say, feedback from the vendor that supplied that price. Hey, things have gone up, and that's 6 months later. But it's not fully awarded yet. That's where the school facilities board is quite careful. So this is the way I'm going to respond to that. If they have awarded the project, and it's taking time then for the vendor to mobilize, get the resources here, get the products built in some sweatshop in some other part of the country, and materials are rare. Like buses are usually 8 months out from the time you order until it's here. Canyon State buses stand by that price. But some of these other contractors have other price increases. I've never had the school facilities board, there's 53 projects on this list from them. I've never had them not fund those inline production cost price increases. I've never had it. I've had them reduce the scope a little bit or go from X to X minus 1% or something, but I've never had them back away. Once we sign a purchase order and give it to those vendors, and we know the full faith and credit of the states behind them, it might, again, take 11 or 12 months to get the project done and finished and paid, but they will either reduce the scope or they will increase it with our change order. We had a $355,000 change order for things like this, ceiling grids and ceiling tiles and lighting ballasts, and the whole bit, 355,000 here. And they increased it with change order, and now the project went from 7.3 million for high school HVAC to 7.7.
The state's paying for it now.
It's all from the state, but it does get, well, I think we're on our 36th month with our HVAC projects. So, but they've seen some price increases, and we just know they've got a deeper pocket than we do, and I've never seen them turn back from the district, so you pay the bill. As long as they're aware of the change order and why we need the extra cost. So, and that's all I
Student
have.
activity report.
Activity report. Okay, student activity report. So we do have a $9,000 encumbrance, and I'm gonna say it's for Mile High Wrestling at the high school, and it hasn't been completely paid yet. So that's my report for student activity. The money was in the account. I think there's, what, 16 different high schools that show up there. I talked to Superintendent Scholl about this. He was the master of ceremonies, and that's your big on your student activity. That's the only thing that to me kind of stands out, because it takes a while for those bills to go through. So that's over 9,000 encumbered, and it's in the account and it's managed really well. So students are very active, and student activity is always for students and raised by students. That's all I have for that.
Fantastic.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Anything else? All right. Then we're going to move on to item 8, A through J is our consent agenda. If I could have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Item 9A is our fiscal year 26 position recommendations in school.
Madam Chair and board members, I just want, the Human Resource Department is looking at requesting the following some changes for 25-26 school year, so for next year. And the reason why we're asking this is that we are adjusting our staff to meet our student enrollment numbers. So we have some suggestions that we would like to be you to approve. We have some positions that we want suspended unless we can find grant funding for them. So if we found grant funding, we could go ahead and look at bringing those positions back. But right now, we not with M&O. So we have 2.5 instructional coaches at Heritage and CVHS. And Ms. Bryce will assume these responsibilities. We have 2 custodian positions. That will still leave two custodians at each site. And then the IEP coordinator position within SPED, this person is going to transition to the assistant special services director because she's retiring. A 0.5 art position at CVHS, that's a retirement. 0.5 physical education position at HMS, that was temporarily for this year. Computer professional at Tech, and that person has resigned. Athletic secretary at CVHS. Later on, all you talking about, we're looking at getting an athletic director position full-time. So that would be taking care of that half of the position. 1.33 certified positions at Chino Valley High School. We're not sure exactly where that will come from right now because we're waiting for to see the certifications and also some of our staff members and where we need, and if somebody's going to resign or retire, we're not sure. And then paraprofessional positions if no longer needed. And then the positions we would like to add are an occupational therapist, and this is going to replace contracted services, which will be a savings for us. And Dr. Burdett has been working very hard on this, a game teacher at Del Rio. And that's because it's program expansion. We have kids coming from Tech to Del Rio, and it will just be a revenue neutral. And then a psychologist replace contracted services again at a savings for the district. And then we're looking at changing the athletic director to be full-time from a 0.5 FTE to a 1.0 FTE.
I have some questions.
Sure.
Okay, one, I think our athletic director should have been full-time a long time ago, but I'm glad we are going there. So are we eliminating the athletic director secretary?
Yes.
So the athletic director will be the secretary, his own secretary, basically.
Well, this position will be non-administrative, meaning it won't have any administration roles at the high school, because in the past we had the athletic director also be maybe an assistant principal or whatever.
Yeah.
So at this point, that position would not take any administrative role. They would just be straight athletic director.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a great question.
And are we keeping the same athletic director?
The
That,
position-
that position is open to anyone. It will be posted tomorrow, and anyone can apply inside or outside of the district.
It's an application process.
Yes, there's an application process.
And Heidi, it's on your table,
Yeah.
that is the job description that
It's right
accompanies that
behind that.
position.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have an athletic director at the middle school?
We do.
We do.
I have a question. A psychologist, is that for us? No, I'm just
Some days I think so.
What would exactly would be the, what would a psychologist do for the kids? Is there just?
A lot of times it's testing within the special ed area. So they do the testing. A school psychologist is different than a psychologist that I might go to. But I'm gonna get our sped director to give all the details.
Oh, thank you.
So a school psychologist, what?
You can come up to
Oh,
the-
stand up, sorry.
No, you can come up to the podium.
Oh,
It's your lucky
okay.
night.
Woo, all right. So a school psychologist is the one that tests students to see if they qualify for special education services. So they do cognitive testing for IQ, academic, social, emotional, adaptive, autism, all the different testing that procedures that you have to do. And so then they can also help with a little bit of mental health background. They have also been educated in that area as well, but their primary job is to test to see if kids qualify for needing special education services or not.
So, that's just for testing and everything, and you get the parents' permission, like.
Oh, yes, that's
signature
required.
and everything. And it's not just for, that's just for special education, it's not for like, we have behavior problems or.
They can sit in as a team member, but their primary focus is testing. And when a student is in special education, every 3 years, they have what we call a triennial review, where we're required by law to review to see if they continue to qualify or not. So they assist us with those meetings as well as reviewing all of the data. And then they also do all the initial testing, and there's a lot of paperwork that goes along with this. So there's a lot of legalities to it all, and they are experts in that and knowing what the legalities are, all the paperwork, how it's supposed to be filled out, and all the different types of evaluations, when and where and how and why and all of that. But
Okay,
yes, it's geared towards special ed.
okay, thank you very much for
You're
that.
welcome.
And we only have one psychiatrist for all the schools, or? we only have
Psychologist. Oh, no.
Psychologists.
We have a contracted school psychologist right now, and then we have an intern psychologist right now who is training under the school psychologist. And then we have a remote person who is assisting with some additional testing. And then I'm also helping.
Okay, perfect, thank you so
Mhm.
much.
Remind us how far down our AD in this.
We're down 100 students. We're actually down a few more this last week. Leanne Willard, our student data manager, provided that data to me. We usually drop a little bit in the beginning of spring semester because of early grads at the high school. So, but we're down a little over 100 students, which, as you know, depending on the weight, because the funding that we get depends on the needs that the students have. The cost that we need to eliminate in order to stay neutral in the budget was 682,000 minimum. That was the baseline. It was over 800,000. So these positions all align with the ability to maintain appropriate staffing levels for the number of students that we have and the types of services that are required.
One more question. The physical education position that we're eliminating at Heritage, do we still have 2 physical education teachers or just one?
We just have right now one.
Okay.
We're 1.5 right now, but we have a really small class moving up, so we don't need 12 sections of PE anymore.
Okay. Okay. All right. That was it.
Ladies, any questions? All right, seeing none and no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion to approve agenda item 9A.
I'll make the motion for the approval of the recommendations for new positions. Occupational therapist, team teacher at Del Rio, psychologist, and full-time athletic director at Canada High School, and position suspension for the 2025-2026 school year unless grant funding can be secured to keep them.
Second that motion. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Item 9B, culinary arts paraprofessionals.
Brian had to run because he had a sick kid.
Got it.
So I can do it real quick if you want. So in our culinary arts program, culinary arts teacher is responsible for a lot of stuff outside the normal workday, which includes shopping for all the food, driving malls, all that kind of stuff. It's a very labor-intensive job. I see Marcia Green, she's done that job. And then we also, because like different classes do different things, it's like the teacher teaches one thing, but then can't be set up for the next class to come along. And so the culinary arts program is, Brian's proposing a paraprofessional that works 18 hours a week to help with all that shopping, the setup, and all the things that go along with it. It is not costing our regular budget any money. This is coming strictly from CTE funds. And so this is for the rest of the school year, and it will continue into next school year. And Mr. Livingston has verified that they do have the money in their account to pay for this.
Questions, comments, discussion?
I think that's helpful.
If anybody wants
For
to-
sure, right?
if anybody wants to, work for 18 hours a week, doing shopping and food setup at the high school. So feeling.
All right, then again, I'll entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda item.
I'll make the motion for the approval of the position for the remaining part of 2024-2025 school and continue to 2025-2026 school year.
And a second. I'll second. Thank you, Marcia. All in favor? Aye. Item 9C.
It's coming around.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, good.
So that's passing around.
Then I'll keep reading. Item 9C is tonight's personnel report with supplements.
Yep, there you go. You're good.
So we have a personnel report, and we also have a personnel report supplement. We're looking for, we have, I have to add these together, I apologize. We have 2 new certified positions, 1 new classified position, 4 new classified substitutes / bus driver trainees, 5 resignations, 3 retirements, 5 classified changes, 2 coaches, and only 60 timesheets. I know.
Yeah, it's on. It's marked action. Oh, you didn't, the action requested isn't filled in.
I'll just do personnel report.
Just a move to approve the
I'll make
personnel
a
report with
motion
the amendment.
for the approval of the personnel report with the supplement.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. All
Thank
right.
you very much.
You're welcome. That was easy. Item 10A is Cougar Camp 2025. Ms. Graham.
Hello. Okay, for those that may not know me, my name is Gina Graham, and this is my 9th year in the school district. Last year, why do I get so nervous now?
Deep breath.
I know, I'm like, last year I initiated a summer program called Cougar Camp, which is for our district students ages 5 to 11. And one of my parents is here and she can account for me. It was very successful. It was, in fact, it was absolutely amazing. It basically all the tuition that came in for the fees came in for the campers went to pay my staff salary. And I came out in the positive. So we had an amazing camp, fully staffed. And I worked really hard with that, very, very hard with that. So I'm asking if I can go ahead and get approval to have the camp again this summer. I have done a couple changes. One thing is a payment plan because some of the parents were like, ooh, the huge cost right up front. So if we can get the ball rolling, I'd like to set up a payment plan to where they can pay equal payments up until the camp time. We did lower it to 2 weeks mandatory for registration for the camp. Anything that's 2 weeks, basically they have to pay up front. There's no payment for it. 3 weeks plus, they can set up a payment plan. Field trips. I got the approval that I can do field trips. I talked to the town and we can get some discounted swimming pool tickets, movie theater. I talked to them, talked to transportation, kind of got a cost, and all of those costs I included into the tuition or the fee for the campers, which we raised to $165 from $150 from last year. What else? I think that's, the location is still undetermined
Actually,
because,
it's not. I learned today that we have to have it at Territorial.
okay.
It's the
So
only
the
place
location's
we- It's the only
Territorial.
place we can do summer foods. The feds have this little map that has this little green circle on it. And they determine which of our schools are rural and which aren't. No kidding. And not all of them are considered rural, half are, half aren't. I got nothing to offer that. The school they don't think is rural is one with the cows across the road. So I'm struggling with it, but it's the feds. What do you say? So we will be doing summer food at Territorial this year. And we just found out late this afternoon, so which means Cougar Camp will be at Territorial because that's where the food will be this year. And so then you can walk to the park and walk to the pool and not have to worry about getting on the bus to go to the pool.
And we have new turf on the playground.
And we have new turf on the playground.
That works. The other additional thing, I had a couple campers that were amazing last year, and we only do ages 5 to 11, that I would like to bring them on as junior counselors under supervision of the staff for sure, but to be role models for the other campers. Sports, because I can't go kick a ball like these guys can. So it's like that helps out, but it also, I'd like to see if I can't incorporate them into some of the junior national honor hours, get some things under the belt and give us something to look forward to. So that is about the end of what I'm adding to it. I'm looking forward to another successful camp. Definitely more campers. I've already had several inquiries on when are you going to start this? When can we get a contract? Please don't forget our kids. So do you guys have any questions?
I'm sure it says it in here somewhere. Is there a cap on students, on kids?
There's not. Basically, I have it broken down up to 40 kids right now and how many hours it would require. Everything's balanced. Like if I had this many kids, I need this many staffing hours and so forth. If we go more, depending on what, Brandy will allow me to have on the campus, but just manageable. My ratio is about 1 adult to every 10 kids, and you're looking ages 5 to 11. I teach 3 and 4-year-olds all day, so it's like the ratio is a perfect ratio. So we don't really have a cap on it. It's whatever we can do. And what we noticed last year is there was a fluctuation. Like some of the campers, they came for the 4 weeks, but it was 2 weeks here and then 2 weeks here, and then we had a couple. So it wasn't like all of them at one time. But the more campers we can bring in, I think the better the program is going to be, because these kids had no place to go.
Like, we can hire more staff.
Absolutely. All the staff members are district employees already. Payrolls run through the district office. So the transition is nice. It's like, and I have a wait list of people that are like, call me if you need me type thing. So
I do have a quick question. It sounds like a great program. What is like your break even? What happens Will you have any problem getting the 40 kids or whatever the break even number of kids you need in order to pay? And what happens if you don't get that?
Then I cry. It doesn't happen. I'm watching like, as far as the tuition for the kids, what's paid, I base my staffing on that. It's like, okay, you guys are gonna get 25 hours this week because this is what I have in. If we get more campers, then you get 35 hours. And I'm bringing back the same stuff that I had last year and they're familiar with it. But I was talking to the business office almost every week, like, where's my numbers? Like, where am I on this? So I kept really close range on a lot of it. It is nice because the more campers, the better, for sure. We have a goal, but as soon as something like that happens, and with having this pre-registration and the payment plan, I'm aware of how many campers I'm gonna have already. So as soon as something, red flag hits, then I'd be like, okay, which one do I not like here, and you're not working anyway, type, but no.
So before you like pull the trigger, you'll know how many kids you have signed
Right.
up.
Right, and then my employees know, or my girls know, that they're only I can only offer this many hours for the amount of campers that I have. And they're great to work with.
We're rolling to a new online system for paying, which allows people not only to pay online, but swipe a card. So that'll be huge, because those are always the hiccups for us, are the capacity for somebody to show or pay on site, whatever. So Gina's gone through training, our admin assistants have gone through training, and Cheyenne's managing the online system for Cheyenne Wilson's.
And my budget in there includes anything, like any of the fees that go with that. I've included that in that budget for the staffing hours also.
Ms. Gina, how long have you worked in the district for?
This is my 9th year.
And would you tell the board what you just got?
No, because I'll start crying.
I know.
I have been teaching preschool. When I came to this district, I'm like, oh, this is a fun part-time job. I was like, no, I fell in love with preschool. I fell in love with the district. I fell in love with at Territorial. I started about 5 years ago, I started college and got my bachelor's degree. And because I truly believe in what we do, and I think that we can make a difference. And and I definitely did it for the money. Oh my gosh, it's like that salary increase. I'm like, yes, but I'm telling you what, it was worth it. I've learned a lot of things. I love what I do, and being allowed to do the summer program also, because this was like a total fluke. I'm like, I went to Miss Daniels last year and I was like, can I do this? And she's like, I was not for sure I was going to go. She goes, yeah, let's talk about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, and not that I would have stopped if she told me no, but I think it's
It's easier to let her just.
yeah. People don't usually tell me no that often, but and then not only that, I've been our PTO president for 7 years, I think. I don't even have a kid at Territorial. I've been the PTO president. And then I'm also like on different boards, like the grad night boards and, soccer booster club and all that stuff too. So like I said, it's definitely, I love this district and I love the people that I work for, and I'm going to keep going forward. So.
I always say that we have the best teachers, but I feel we are really lucky to have you here. And I'm really proud of you. You're a mom, you're a teacher, and the fact that you did that, that's really awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would be glad to approve this. Absolutely, go for it. All right, I make a motion to approve Cougar Camp and related fees.
I second that.
All in favor? Aye. And for that price, you're gonna be full.
Yes.
I think so. Thank you so much.
Thank you, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, item 11A, use of alternative funds for teacher insurance.
Okay, good. So I wanted to start with, it's the district's intention and commitment to fully fund teacher insurance premiums. So I want to start with that. I worked with our attorney on some language, so we have the capacity to use alternate funds to help pay for teacher insurance. We're expecting a large increase in our insurance premiums this year across the district. It's not just us. Other districts in the area too. Insurance premiums are based on something called a loss ratio, which means we pay this number of dollars into insurance. They like to see us use 80 to 84% of what we spent on premiums and claims. Right now, our claims for last year are running about at 160%. So we're almost double what the ideal expenditure is. So we know that our insurance, health insurance rates are going up. Different funds can be used for different classifications of employees to help pay for those premiums. With our attorney's advice, we're gonna cap what comes from our maintenance and operations fund for teacher insurance only and ask you to approve the use of alternate or special funds to make up the difference. And so those could be different funds every year depending on what kinds of things we have. But we have, we have something like 93 different funds in the district. And so John and I will work together. So we always fully fund, going into next year for sure. I know some of our neighboring districts are looking at not fully funding employee insurance premiums anymore. And our commitment, at least for next year, is that we continue to fully fund all insurance premiums, but teachers are in a special classification. So we're just asking for permission that going forward, any premium for teacher insurance right now, our health insurance per employee costs $9,240.72 a year. So it's almost $10,000 a year. So we're asking that we'll cap what we spend from M&O at this year's cost. Any increased cost will come from funds other than M&O.
It's important to have those benefits.
Very
You know,
important.
I mean, that's one reason why people take a job as a teacher.
Absolutely.
Make sure they have the benefits
Yep.
to cover them.
Absolutely.
Sign? No. That's it, all. Go ahead. Make the approval of the cap on teacher insurance paid from Fund 001 at $9,240.72, with the affirmation that the additional cost of teacher insurance will be paid from alternate Fund 66.
The second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Item 9B, asphalt maintenance contract award for January 13th, 2025. Get approval, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, President, and members of the board. We have reviewed in brief the January 13th, we gave the procurement office permission to move forward with the bid. We closed that bid on the 4th of February. We've got 4 responses. Actually, we got 5 responses. Believe it or not, one of the companies that we looked at on my little sheet here that's on a procurement cooperative contract emailed us their response. That's not acceptable. We don't put that right in the documents, but sometimes when they go back to their office and there's 6 or 8 of these things going on, so that was a knockout for them. The company that we're proposing is the exact same company we had here the summer and fall of 2023. If you were aware of when we opened the doors on our mini houses, that was October of 2023. This asphalt company had been here, I think, the first time, November of 2022. And they got a little bit sideways with the town because there was a street that came right up over at 2 east, or I guess it's 2 north and 1 west, right there in front of us. And there was a stop sign coming up and they wanted to back up from that stop sign about 30 feet and make a turn in. And they thought they had some permission and some approvals from the town to do that design, and there was some gate issues, so that stopped them for about 2 months. And then they came back in January of 23, March of 23, and they did a huge project in the south end of Del Rio, and they did the fire lane over the mini houses. And they worked on that for about 2.5 months, putting drains and everything else, and that's when we saw just how gifted they were. So I had the opportunity Friday to talk to their 3 references, and the 3 references were Sunland Asphalt. And the one I've never heard this before is a reference from a school district, their own school district, that when the salesperson or the account representative would come to the school district, he would walk the sites. His name's Scott Hamilton, and he makes one of our meetings. He's been doing this for 30 years. And he would tell the school district, you don't need to slurry seal coat that surface at this time. You've got 3 more years. And he was right. So you can't imagine any references higher than for Sunland Asphalt. Their bid came in the lowest by about 80,000, and they've got a tremendous reputation. I suppose it's probably probably their strongest reference in addition to these three school districts, their facility director, because we've seen what they did over there. We've had no drainage issues, we've got moisture there, and it goes where it belongs, I guess. And we're so comfortable with them. If we have some money left over in our special fund, 620, if you, we may have them do a couple more small projects, just based on, again, us being strategic with our bid. And now that we've selected them and we can purchase off of the one GPA contract, we may not open it up for some smaller vision project. We might open it up for other contractors. We're still talking. It's nice to when we have a company come up here from the valley, keep people here for 2 weeks or more. It's nice to get as much done as possible. That's our recommendation. Sunland Asphalt. I think that's an emotion to award them the contract.
Fantastic. Any questions for Mr. Winston?
I just have one. We don't have any local asphalt people within the Appalachian County. We have, not that I have nothing against Phoenix, but we didn't get a bit.
So, That's a really good question. So there were 5 companies that bid. 4 of them, I mentioned, they're on this one GPA deal. We have one local company. And one local company did come to our pre-bid meeting. These pre-bid meetings are really cool. If the company does see it in the newspaper that the bids are due Tuesday, February 4th at 1:30 p.m. and wants to submit a bid, but didn't come to our pre-bid meeting, we don't accept those bids. So this company was local. They came to our pre-bid meeting. I was reviewing the bids last Tuesday, the 4th of February, with our facilities director and one of my staff, Mirza Lamper. And we noticed that half of one of the high school projects over here wasn't even included in their price. So I called him. This fellow's name, it's APS, local company. Clyde was the first name. I said, Clyde, you know, this is John at the school district. Part of my duty, whether it's authority and duty, I'm the bid protest person. So if there's a bid award and someone has a problem with the way we explained it or the way we outlined it, they could come to the board, and I explained this to Clyde. I said, you can come and present to the board if you think it wasn't clear in our bid document what we were asking for. He said, no, you were clear. He just forgot the last half. Part of it is just sealing the area. Part of it is going down 3 inches, removing and then remilling and then replacing and then compacting. And they forgot that at the high school. So I said, well, you're certainly willing, we're willing to let you know if you want to come to the board. If the procurement was not done right. And then the board might side with you and stay the procurement and want us to reissue it. Or they might just side with us and say, you know, it's done. And he just said, sorry, I forgot it. So that's the benefit of doing a local bid, even though 4 of the respondents are on state contract. We did get one local, and we're just thrilled to death that he put in a bid. It just wasn't complete. So we do want to have open procurement because, yeah, we could get some companies that do come up here frequently from down below, and we have the law of large numbers because they have bigger groups and bigger projects. But we do like to favor, like the one we favored a lot, I think we've done 9 POs with, is TDK Comfort Systems. When we put in HVAC units, and they're very competitive and very responsive, and we definitely like local support. We do have a contractor, it's Sun State. Is Sun State out of Prescott then?
Yeah, there's one there, but we use Chino more. If Chino doesn't have what we need.
Yes, Chino Rentals or Sun State. We're renting right now a $1,600 compactor. Superintendent Daniels talked about this hole that we had water and washing filtered away, and we're going to compact it with something from Sun State, and it might be more expensive to do that, a couple $100, then bring one up from the valley where it might be a lower price. But we like to favor our local contractors to the extent we can look you in the eye and say, sign off that it's the best deal or the most responsible procurement for the district. Probably 40% of the time it is. And then some of these really big projects, we think sometimes there's some advantages to going with really big companies. They can order it because they sometimes with the state wait 6 months to get paid. Sure, these projects are there, but sometimes, so we can't have the local small companies hanging on their payroll for that long. So we try to balance it as much as possible. And just again, to recoup, we could have purchased from any one of these without any procurement at all because they've got the pre-bid already done, these 4 companies. When we opened it up to anyone local, there's a Holbrook Asphalt, and there was one up at Flag. They did put it in the paper so we catch everyone that's interested, and then we call and send bid packets to these ones plus a local one. Then we hold a meeting and invite them, and then tell them, only when you're protected, the only ones that get the bid are the ones that come to our meeting. Exactly what we're doing. But again, when people go back home, the estimator staff doesn't always talk to the field staff. Great, great question.
Any further questions or discussions? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to
I'll
approve.
make a motion to approve award of asphalt maintenance contract per request for proposals January 2025, vendor name to be provided February 2025.
Sutherland Asphalt. All right, second. Thank you, all in favor? Aye. Well, hello there. Let's see, what is this? No, I'm kidding. Proposed preschool tuition increase.
You do this when I have a kid come.
I know, I thought about you. I'm like, Andy's gonna question me. Okay, we haven't increased the price of tuition, so it is that time that due to minimum wage and increase in everything, I have to increase, but only by $10.
When was the last time we increased 5 years ago?
Okay. Was it last year?
No, 5. It's been a no, CASA did raise their prices.
Okay.
And I did do a cost comparison. We're still way cheaper than anybody else. So we're like Discovery Gardens, Bright Futures. Valley Learning Center is more of a daycare, childcare, and so trying to figure out exactly where their preschool fits into that is a little bit different. And most people do it by week, but Bright Futures and Discovery Gardens do it by the month. Same as us, that we're going to do. Raise it to 210, or I'm sorry, 205. $10 increase, and hopefully that'll get us through. So John's not knocking on my door.
For our new board members and those possibly streaming, can you explain the difference between a tuitioned preschooler and a special needs preschooler?
So we have both. So our tuition-based preschool is for our typically functioning preschoolers. Everybody has special needs and uniqueness, but our ones that have IEPs that have been identified through through the school psychologist, then they can come for free because that is part of IDEA that we provide free appropriate public education starting at age 3.
And do you have like a child fine for that, or?
We do child find once a month. Every 30 days we do one, and it's always the first Thursday of the month. And
the preschool is usually full.
We hold spots for our 3-year-olds because as they turn 3, we roll 3-year-olds in. But yes, we are full now. We actually have, I have numbers. We have 57 paying full tuition. We have 53 on IEPs and 6 who get scholarships for United Way Valley of the Sun. And these were numbers before last week's child find. So I handed out 6 new enrollment packets on Thursday.
You get more special needs every time you do a child find.
That's all that the child find is for, is looking for special needs.
I know that, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So you have slots open for children that are coming in?
We hold spots for those specifically.
And we have to take special needs, whether we have
I
spots
know.
or not, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's constantly, our preschool's constantly growing. It starts out smaller in the fall and then we're up to,
How many preschool classrooms do you?
we run 8 classrooms. 4 in the morning and 4 in the
And
afternoon.
when will you open up enrollment for your tuition-based kids?
We
For
do
next, in
for
the
next
fall?
school year?
Yeah.
February next 22nd, I think. It's next week. Let me, 2 seconds, I'm gonna tell you what it is. Next Thursday.
I need that, please, it is February 27th.
20.
Next Thursday?
No, for the 13th.
Oh, the 13th
That's
is this
this
Thursday. That's
I
this
will just,
Thursday.
How about the 20th? Could it be February 20th?
I think it is,
Okay.
Randy.
Is it the 20th? Thank you, Ginny knows.
Thanks
So
for being here.
it is on the
Thanks, Kate.
20th.
It's the 20th.
It is on the 20th. And that is for preschool and kindergarten. We do our kindergarten roundup, preschool roundup, so we can kind of start banking on numbers.
So I need to be
Yes.
involved next.
Yes, you're gonna come see me and I'll have a nice little packet. Okay. And the price is just $10.
Just for you.
And
You gotta say you have, I think I've never seen.
it is, I'm very blessed. You saw Gina who works in there and I'm very blessed with the staff we have. So they do it, we call it Disneyland down there. So,
You do a great
All
job.
right, even though I don't want to move this. But thank you. All right, I will make a motion for the approval of an increase in preschool tuition fee beginning August 2025.
I will second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Item 12. I have to make sure I have
Yes,
that right.
ma'am.
Addition to regulation JLCD-R. Ms. Berner.
Hello, I'm Catherine Berner, I'm the district nurse, I'm also housed over at HMS right now. And back in April, I believe of last year, I got approval from the board to participate in a research study put on by the National School Nurse Association. And it is specifically for the development of a curriculum for school personnel. So teaching staff, support service, nurses, God willing, that take care of our students that have type 1 diabetes. So part of this is that we have to beef up our policy procedure regulation. Now, we already have a policy in place for caring for children with chronic, any child really, but children with chronic health conditions. So because I'm not by myself and I have a second RN in our district now, we were able to work together and she actually did most of the work in beefing up our regulation, taking what was already there that was pretty generic and generalized on how health office staff, school staff will manage the administration of medication and taking care of children with a chronic health condition, and put in a lot more detail on what's actually going to happen and give us framework for how we're going to implement this. With the idea being that, yes, we're here, we're not gonna always be here. So whoever's coming in behind us, we have a really robust program to just step into. And then any new staff that are coming in, there's going to be training and very clear expectations also for parents who have a newly diagnosed child who has type 1 diabetes. It will give them something in writing that they can actually see. This is what we are going to provide for your children. This is what you can expect from us. So that's what this whole beautiful document that you have is. And again, Misty Aguilar is the registered nurse. She's our second registered nurse. She's over at Territorial. She really is the one. I had the skeleton in place and she put the meat on the bones. So I am very grateful for that.
We're asking, typically regulations and exhibits don't need governing board approval. We're asking for it to help support Catherine in her research project that was authorized by the board, so she can do that part.
How many type 1 diabetics do we have right now?
Over the 4 campus, well, nobody at Tech right now, although we do have a kiddo that we monitor, but we have 9 over the other 3 campuses. And they're like every level, like brand new. We've been doing them forever.
This is for the diabetes, but does this also, what other chronic?
Oh, in the district?
Yeah, but how many more would this cover, other than the diabetic?
Oh, this is specific to
This is specific
type
to-
1 diabetes because there is not another chronic disease that requires so much management throughout the school day. There are lots of chronic diseases that I'm aware of that I want to have going in the back of my mind through the school day, but there's not, I mean, even asthma, you're not going to see those kids as much as your type 1 diabetics because every single time they consume something, they have to have insulin. And so it's a constant thing. It's all day long. We have CGM, which is continuous glucose monitoring. A lot of that is managed on cell phones, so children aren't supposed to have cell phones at school. However, kids can. And so this gets everything clarified so that there's clear expectations on both sides, both for school staff and for families.
Tell me about your tablet.
With grant money, we were able to purchase, it's called Sugar Pixel. It was actually developed by the mom of a type 1 diabetic. It's anonymous screening. So a lot of times, if we're monitoring a kid at school, if it's on your personal device, you have a student's personal information on your personal device. We don't want that. Not everything works with Google, and we're a Google-based school. So with Sugar Pixel, it's just, do you have internet? And it's just gonna show you numbers. You can color code your kids so that you can have multiple children on a monitor, and you'll have a key. Red is this kid, blue is this kid, and that takes out the ethical and legal repercussions of wanting to know what your student is on campus, like where they're at with their blood sugar, and not having to break down and use your personal device because school platforms don't always integrate with the continuous blood glucose monitoring. So Sugar Pixel, it's bridges the gap, which is why it was developed. So we have those.
Everybody, all the type 1's information on our tablet around the whole district to know if they're having trouble.
I think that is awesome. That's really nice.
Super cool.
So this, again, it's going to give us clear expectations for all staff, because as a teacher, you're going to spend a lot more time with a student who has type 1 in the health office. And instead of saying, hey, teachers, this is a single page document that you're going to follow, it's going to be, hey, teachers, you have this student. Here is what we're actually going to do, and what we as the health office, me as the district nurse, this is what you can expect from me so far as training you so that you are comfortable in your classroom, and things that you can do to manage to decrease the interruptions to the school day.
Seeing that,
I'll make the motion for the approval of the expansion of the jail.
and a second, please.
Second.
All in favor? Item 12B is our Yavapai Library Network related waiver of conflict of interest with Yavapai County Attorney's Office.
So all you're doing in this is waiving the conflict of interest. You're not approving YLM membership or anything like that. I just want to make that clear. So the Yavapai Library Network is for multiple campuses across Yavapai County, multiple libraries across Yavapai County. Just to confuse everyone, there are 2 different library districts in Yavapai County. Yavapai Library Network and Yavapai Free Library District. So YLN, our students can request books through interlibrary loan, things like that. They're all vetted by our school librarians to make sure kids aren't requesting and receiving something that we would not normally put on our school shelves.
I appreciate that.
Because there are lots of school districts who are part of YLN in the county, like pretty much all of them, 25 school districts. They're all part of YLN. If the agreement went through the county attorney's office, because the county attorney represents YLN, and then all 25 school district attorneys to make sure that we all agree on this document, it would take like an ice age to get through 25 different attorneys' offices and the county attorney's office. So there are some things where we have shared services. This is one of them, where every school district governing board decides could the county attorney potentially have a conflict of interest because they represent YLN? Yes. Every school district says we're willing to waive that conflict of interest in order to make the process quicker. So the Yavapai County attorney reviews the contract that later on we'll enter into or not to shared library services. This just gives us one attorney for 25 districts and the county. And so all we're asking tonight is that we allow the county attorney to be the one that writes the contract and that it doesn't have to go through every district's attorney.
You know, I just appreciate the books being screened. Because I know that there's libraries that have certain books that we don't want our children to get hold of.
Well, material that's not age appropriate.
Right, I'll put it that way, yeah. Between the college and some of the other libraries.
I'll make the motion to approve waiver of conflict of interest with the Office of County Attorney Office.
A second,
I'll second.
all in favor? Aye. Item 12C, exhibit change for policy KI.
Okay, governing board policy KI is about visitors to the classroom. And I want to distinguish between visitors to the classrooms and volunteers in the classrooms. This has nothing to do with classroom volunteers. This strictly has to do with people who are requesting to visit a classroom. Could be a parent who has a child in a particular classroom, could be a parent, guardian who is interested in learning more about our schools and wants to visit the classrooms. Our policy says that an administrator has to accompany those visitors to the classrooms because our volunteers are fully vetted. There's an application process, a background check, and fingerprinting process. People who just want to visit the classrooms aren't vetted because they're just there as a temporary visitor. In the past, our policy has been non-specific about the quantity of visits that an individual may request and the length of time. And so we're asking that we be more specific in our regulation and that we have in our exhibit, which is the paper that someone fills out when they want to visit it. So people will be able to visit a classroom once a semester for 20 minutes at a time. And remember, I just want to remind everybody that's different than volunteers who, when you do your volunteer packet and those people can be unsupervised because they've had background check and been fingerprint cleared. This is strictly a time-bound visitor to a classroom that has to be accompanied by an administrator.
Well, I think we've talked about this before, but this is parents. But what happens if somebody wants to come in and visit a classroom and you find out that you shouldn't be around children, let's put it that way?
That's why they're with an administrator. That's why they're
So-
never alone.
And a parent's the same way?
Yes. Yep.
If a parent is having an issue with a child in the classroom and wants to visit the classroom, they can come just once a semester?
They can once a semester for 20 minutes at a time. If a parent has a child who's having a problem in a classroom, their first course of action will be to visit always with the classroom teacher about the situation. If they feel that it's unresolved, to visit with the school administrator who can work toward resolution with that. And then if it's something that the parent thinks, no, I really need to observe my own kid in this environment, then they can be accompanied by an administrator to do that. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for doing that.
All right, seeing no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 12C.
I'll make the motion to approve the revision of the exhibit for governing board policy KI, thereby limiting visitors to 1 20-minute classroom visit per semester.
A second, please.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, fantastic. See you all next month.
Look at you, good job.